Hey everybody, it's Rob here. Season 11 brings a ton of new content to Diablo 4 and a lot of big changes. Many more than I personally expected. I think this season is looking more like Season 4 in terms of like the content that's coming. But some of these changes have players really concerned, like looking at the teleport nerfs, looking at some of the nerfs in general we get to the game and the power level. So today, let's talk about it. We have a full list here that we came up here together with the stream. I also read a lot of the forum posts, and I want to talk about each and every single one of them here, especially if you're looking at the forums here. There is a lot of negativity. This was like quite surprising for me because we haven't even played all those changes, and we have to really see, because the game changed so much, how they come all together in the PTR. And then when we have this, we can also give a ton of feedback on the PTR. That's starting here next week already, guys. So Season 11 starts December 9th. The PTR starts 21st of October. So a lot of concerns I've seen here by players, and you can see it here in the forums. There's a lot of people that have a lot of things to say about this. The biggest one here is probably the Sorcerer teleport nerf. So let's start with this one. The teleport on the Sorcerer received a 5-second cooldown in the new patch. We can test it next week. That is not reduced by any of the cooldown, not reduced by any of the evade stuff. And obviously, teleporting is like kind of the identity of the Sorcerer. And while I agree that the teleport was extremely powerful, it was also extremely fun. And here I would have loved to see, and I talked about this many times before, movement speed cap increase to kind of bridge the gap in speed farming. Like Sorcerer, especially you see it in Helltide. Sorcerer have been like flying all across the map, while other classes, I don't know, you're a Necromancer and you're just slow, right? I think the main reason that this is the case is because of movement speed being kept to 200%. And I would much rather see a movement speed cap increase to like 300, maybe 400%, maybe even uncap it, the way it worked in D3, the way it works in Path of Exile 1, the way it works in Path of Exile 2, where you can just keep stacking movement speed. It's like not easy, you know, to stack as much movement speed, but if you actually manage to stack this movement speed, I think it should go beyond, you know, what we have right now. But they basically decided to address the balance in a different way. The Sorcerer was having a lot of fun with Perma teleport, so they bring the Sorcerer down rather than bringing the Necromancer, the Druid, the Barbarian up in terms of speed. So I see that this is like basically fixing the problem a little bit, but I also think it's not going to resonate well with the player base. And I also, personally, I also love the teleport Sorcerer. And yeah, seeing that changed is not that great in my opinion. So with this concern, I agree. But again, it fixes the problem where the Sorcerer was absolutely crazy in Torment 4, to the point where it was unfair if you're doing Helltides, you're trying to click the Chaos Rifts. It was kind of unfair, you know, for like a Necro or a Druid like playing against the Sorcerer. So it closes the class balance gap for speed farming. But I think it should have, you know, done differently by buffing the movement speed of other classes. However, this is what they decided, guys, and we'll test it on the PTR, and we'll see how it's gonna feel. Very like looking forward to at least testing this and see how it feels. Then a lot of people who also had some concerns with only having one temper slot per item. So right now, like your items basically have 2 tempers, and you're gonna go down to 1 temper. But what a lot of people miss, like they're gonna add another affix on the weapon on top of this. So your weapon's gonna have the same amount of affixes as before. I think we can see it in the footage here. So this is an example of the new item here. You're gonna have, this is actually missing an affix. I don't know what footage they showed.
For this kind.
I don't know what footage they showed here, but like you're supposed to have 4 affixes plus 1 temper. And then also you can't masterwork the temper, but what you can do in the end is make the temper into a greater affix. So I think many people miss that. And most of the temper slots, for example, looking at weapons and stuff, there's only 1 useful affix on the weapon anyways here. The crit damage is just additive, right? The main temper that you want here is the Dust Devil to cast twice, for example, or, you know, XYZ skill to deal double damage. And you can turn this into a greater affix with the new master working system. So your temper can be turned into a greater affix. So with this critique that many players have, they are really concerned about the tempers. I don't really share that. I really like the new temper system. You can also make unlimited temper resets here, which feels pretty good, I think, or which is gonna feel pretty good. And you can turn these tempers, like, let's say you really want the Wrath of the Berserker cooldown, you can turn this into a greater affix if you already have a 3 or 4 GA ring, and you can keep doing this. So I also really don't see, or I don't really share the concerns here, again, because the second temper in a lot of cases was kind of not really that useful anyways. So I don't really mind, and we also have the unlimited temper resets now, which is gonna be feeling pretty good. Then another big concern here I read about the forums is that the leveling process seems slower. And I think this kind of goes hand in hand with the general power level. So this might be a bit of an unpopular opinion. You can let me know what you think in the comments below. But in my opinion, the leveling and also unlocking Torment 4 and the general power creep of the game has hit insane levels again in Season 10. Like with all the Chaos Armor, with all the crazy stuff and all the crazy multipliers. I think the power creep has just gone a little out of hand. And seeing a bit of a reduction in player power again can be a good thing. Because we were just been unlocking Torment 4, like even if you're like a casual player, in a few days, you could have a Torment 4 character ready for like people that blast like me. I think we were in Torment 4 after just 8 hours of playing. And you know, there's nothing really beyond Torment 4 that's really rewarding still. So making the journey to the like full end game a bit slower, in my opinion, is not necessarily a bad thing. However, I can see that casual players, whenever they hear that the game gets harder or the leveling process gets a bit slower, they're immediately like, I'm not gonna like this, you know? And I really encourage, like, we have to see on the PTR and test how it feels. The leveling process and getting to the end game was very, very fast. So fast that people were kind of like, you know, running out of content because you outscale Torment 4 so fast that you're just running out of content. And I think tuning this speed down a little bit, like you remember Season 7, we had the same thing, and in Season 8 it was tuned down a bit, and I think we have this again. Season 10, very fast pace, very high power level, and Season 11 we are getting a bit more balanced, and I think that's fair, guys. But again, we will be able to test this on the PTR, and we will see. One thing that I didn't really agree with, however, and I think they posted this on the update here as well, that during leveling, like, we're getting less items. I'm not sure if I can find this like immediately here, but like because there's so many changes, like there's a lot of content. But they're basically reducing the item rarity like early on. You can see it here, that the item rarity is gonna like be reduced. So magic items will be more frequently, rare items will be rarer before level 30, legendary items will be super rare before level 40. So this here is something I can see the players, and I agree with it, that, I don't know, it just basically takes your build longer to get like the significant items. And here I'm like, okay, I'm like a little like more, okay, I don't know if the legendary items dropping later is really a good thing. Because, you know, with the difficulty increase and the monsters becoming more dangerous, I think this is gonna happen automatically, that the leveling process is gonna be a bit slower. But this, to me, feels like a little too punishing. Again, we will test it on the PTR, but first glance, first impression, this just feels like not really a change that many players would like. I generally agree with making the leveling take a bit longer, but like making it less fun with less items, that doesn't really sound that great to me. Anyways, that's my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments about this. Then we also have the higher costs of imprinting and masterworking. If you're looking here, many people have been complaining about this here, that the imprinting now costs 1 million gold instead of 300,000 gold. They've been complaining that the enchanting costs like a lot more Forgotten Souls. But keep in mind, guys, they are rebalancing the entire game and the entire economy. People forgot that the blacksmith is also giving more loot for salvaging items. You can even see if you salvage a mythic, you are now getting 100 Forgotten Souls. And salvaging legendary items also gives you Forgotten Souls now. So I think it's gonna balance out. And yeah, the costs seem pretty high on first glance, but I think it's gonna be pretty balanced when we actually get to try it. And also, this is new thing, they added a way to transfer the material. There's a new recipe to transfer materials, so I think that could be a pretty cool thing as well. And if you're running out of Forgotten Souls, you can just use your crystals or your iron chunks to transform it into Forgotten Souls. So I think we have to like see the big picture here and test the big picture before we jump to any early conclusions. Like if you're looking at the forums here, man, so many people are negative about this here. Like for example here, dead gamers are getting more angry, lots of dead gamers and more like lazy, chill gamers asked to make the game easier. Now the game becomes harder. And yeah, people are really upset about the sword nerfs. They are upset about the barbarian having like 24 legendary powers and stuff like that. So I mean, there's just like a lot of negative sentiment. And again, like some parts I agree with here, but lots of the parts, man, I think they just don't look at the big picture here. The next one here is Sanctifying is too much RNG. So Sanctifying is a new system. It basically works like a Val orb of Path of Exile, where you have a chance, a random outcome when you sanctify your item. And people are complaining it's too much RNG. And I partially agree with here. But one thing that people forget is that just like in PoE, you don't Val orb all your items. And the same is true for Diablo. You do not have to sanctify every item that you get. This is like the final step if you have like multiple copies of an item to then sanctify, because it can also remove an affix. It can break your item. Let's say you have a Shaco with cooldown, you sanctify, there's a chance that that cooldown is going to go away and become something useless, right? And just the way it works in PoE, guys, you do not have to Val, you don't have to sanctify all your endgame items. But people are already like, you know, dooming here the sanctification and saying it's too much, it's too crazy. Like, I don't know, like people, I like crazy, you know, like, we'll see. There are some valid concerns here where, for example, here this guy is saying Sorcerer Metamorphosis affix can like screw up your evade and stuff. And I definitely agree. There is a lot of RNG in the system. We'll have to test it in the PTR though. There can be like very low odds, and this can be problematic for the leaderboards, but I really encourage you, like, let's just wait until the PTR is there and we'll see exactly how it works. They also didn't really clarify if you can literally sanctify every single affix on the item. I think that's why this guy here is upset that the Barbarian potentially has 24 legendary powers. If you hit like all the sanctification, I don't really think this is going to happen. This is not really like reasonable for like the average player to reach, and even for like people that play a lot. I don't think this is like a very valid concern. We'll have to see, guys. I think the RNG is pretty high, and we'll just have to test it. This is basically my conclusion. Like here it's like, yeah, I maybe like 50% agree, but again, you do not have to Val orb. You do not have to sanctify every single item, guys. So this is not like master working 3.0 or something like some people say here. And then the next thing is the general power level we already talked about. Resistance. And here I kind of agree. Like, I personally really like the new resistance system. It's simple. It's exactly what it is in Path of Exile. It's exactly what it is or how it works in Diablo 2. You have percent resistance. It goes all the way up to 100%, and that gives you 100% damage reduction, and there's a cap, right? If you have 50% res, you take 50% less damage. If you have 60% res, you take 60% less damage. That is easy, that is simple. And I also agree, I feel we're going backwards now. So now, instead of resistance being additive, like 10% resistant plus 10% resistant equals 20% resistance, now they are going back to a resistant rating, similar to how it was, you know, in the beginning of the game. And yeah, I'm not really feeling that. I think it's too complicated having like the resistance like back to the way it was, and a rating system that is multiplicative. So 10 plus 10 does not equal 20. It's going to be 10, like, you know, times like, or 0.9 times 0.9. And it's going to be like a rating system. So you can have like, I don't know, 500% fire rest, and that's going to give you a fixed amount of damage reduction to fire. I think that system is way too complicated, and I already think we tried this on the launch. That's how resistances, at least similarly, kind of worked on the launch of the game. And we'll test it on the PTR, but first impression, I do not like resistance rating system. Resistance being multiplicative. I think it's just confusing, and I don't think it's that great for the game. But let me know what you think on resistance. I like the current system. I wish they wouldn't change it, but here we are. Next thing here is that we're gonna get more bad stats, and I think this is like particularly true on the amulet. We'll have to see how it's gonna be in the end. But I think there's like life per kill. Yeah, life per hit here. You can see, guys, right now, most of you already know kind of how hard it is to roll a good amulet, right? And now we're going to have 4 affixes on the amulet. So you want main stat plus most likely 3 good passives. You want, like, I don't know, heavy-handed, pit fighter, and then you want counter-offensive with strength %, right? But what they are doing, like, they are making monsters more challenging. And maybe for a hardcore player, this is, like, very attractive. But I think for softcore player, I don't see any world where we want the life on the amulet. And now they are adding a bunch of more defensive stats, specifically to amulets. So we have maximum life, we have life regeneration, we have life on kill, we have life per hit, and we have healing %. There are a total of 5 different life stats on your amulet now, which are basically blocking slots for your passives, for your envenom, you know, for your heavy-handed, for your malice, for your exploit, like for all this different stuff. So there's like life on Tuesdays. It just feels to me like this. This is my first impression. We'll test it, guys, and then we'll give feedback, right? But I don't see. There's also max life, so it's 5. But I don't see this, you know, being that desired stat on the amulet. Even if there's like a greater value on the amulet, we'll see. But it's just gonna make getting the right amulet with the right passives just so much harder. And it's already a huge pain in the A. So yeah, this is just a concern that I definitely share, where there's just too many stats on the amulet and it just became even worse. We'll see, because the monsters are gonna be very dangerous, and maybe there is a world where you wanna stack defense on your amulet. I kind of believe it if I would see it, right? Like right now, I just think you just want 3 passives, because, I mean, if you choose to go life per kill versus envenom on the amulet, even without masterworking, it's like a +3. It's 30% multiplicative damage versus life on kill. I think the 30% multiplicative damage from envenom always wins. We'll see. This is some concern I definitely share. And then one other concern here that I also have for a long time, that I also seen echoing through the community, specifically with the new tower, is that challenging content is not rewarding. And there's also no changes to the reward structure in pits, which also has me really concerned. So the way it works right now, guys, if you do a pit 120 or you do a pit 100, it's completely irrelevant. The rewards don't really go up in any significant way. You don't really get more XP, you don't really get better items, you don't really get more obols, you don't get more gem ups or something, because the gems are capped to 100, everything is capped. And I think this is still one of the main concerns, that challenging content in Diablo 4 is not rewarding. There's no changes to any of the pits. It also didn't really sound like there's gonna be a lot of rewards for the tower. They mentioned it's a beta system, so we can give feedback. They also mentioned there might be some first completion rewards, but in general, the tower is also not a content they want us to farm. And I think some of the very positive things of Greater Rifts in Diablo 3 was that you actually were rewarded on top of a leaderboard rank. The leaderboard rank doesn't really give you anything but bragging rights, right, in the end. And a lot of people don't really care about the leaderboard. So I feel like it's a bit of a missed opportunity if there are not any like good rewards for challenging your character in the tower or even in the pit. And I'm really thinking that it would be a better system if there would be some rewards, some good, maybe even unique rewards to challenging content in the game. Because right now, like, you're just basically only rewarded for doing completely brain-dead content. You never want to play anything that is remotely a challenge to your character. You just want to play a tier where you basically one-shot everything. Everything needs to die in one shot for efficiency purposes and stuff. And that's not really like a good game system. I think challenging content needs to be rewarding. And I'm kind of agreeing that I'm missing this in this patch. There's not really all that much in terms of challenging content being a reward. So you can hate Diablo Immortal, but Diablo Immortal actually had some pretty cool systems where, I don't know, if you placed the top 100 or the top 1000 on the leaderboards, you would be getting, like, every week it would reset, and you would be getting like a cool reward for like achieving like a gold or a bronze rank or something in this system. And I feel like something like this is missing in the tower, some reward structure to it beyond just, you know, having the bragging rights. Because if you just do the pit and if you do the tower and you don't really get any items, you don't get any gem ups, you don't really get much. Maybe besides from like a first completion reward. We'll see how much that's going to be. But I think it's also going to basically, like, not many people really care about the leaderboards in the end. They want to, like, I don't know, improve their character. They want to get more powerful or something. And if the challenging content is not rewarding and the only reward is like a ranking in the leaderboard, that I think like 90% of players won't really care about the leaderboard, right? There's a lot of players that do care about the leaderboard, but especially casual players, they're not really going to be too concerned about like landing a good leaderboard spot. So why would they do the tower? You know, it's like, we'll have to see how this is going to turn out, but this is definitely a concern that I have for a long time in the game. And it definitely still stands for the pits, because the high pits, they don't offer any reward. And you always want to do some brain dead content, basically. And I think this doesn't really change. We'll see on the PTR, guys. Anyways, next to all these concerns by players, and some of them I share, I would say I share like half of these concerns. We'll test them and we'll give feedback. There is a lot of positive things I think that people missed out on, that they, I don't know, maybe we didn't realize because there were so many changes. I just want to highlight a few here. The damage resistant aura guys are gone completely, guys. So next to all the content, they also removed this like annoying purple little monsters that basically completely lag out the game. They completely screw you over, especially on high content. So they are completely gone, deleted from the game. Massive W. They have actually reworked quite a few mythic uniques as well. The Melted Heart here is basically making a huge comeback. They even buffed the Shattered Vow, and other mythic uniques are getting a rework. Especially the Melted Heart is basically like a Mana Shield 2.0 for all the classes. And I think specifically Barbarian with some of the brawling skills, and even Spiritborn, they can make some pretty good use of this new mythic Melted Heart. So very excited to test this. Unlimited temporary sets, like, I think that's offsetting most of the concerns of the temper system. The pits do not require a key to open them anymore. So before you had to have like a certain amount of stones to open the pits. That's completely removed. That's a massive win as well. And then this little change here, better XP scaling outside of the pits. I mentioned before that basically the best way to farm XP is to do no brain dead like pit runs. 1 minute pit runs is the best way to do it. And it looks like they're actually increasing the amount of experience points you get from activities outside of the pits according to their difficulty. I think that could be a very cool way. So right now, basically, the only way to get XP is to do pit runs. Maybe now, like the Hordes, maybe the Helltide, maybe the Nightmare Dungeons, maybe even the Tower are some valid ways to get some experience as well. And I would really like to see, like, you know, a break up of this like pit 69, pit 79 meta in like 45 seconds brain dead content. Again, this ties in this point as well. Again, that challenging content is not rewarding enough. So I have high hopes for this. We'll see how much the XP scaling is changed for activities outside of the pits. But that sounds pretty cool to me. And then also there's a ton of class balance and meta shakeup. Specifically Spiritborn and Druid. They have received quite significant nerfs because those classes were like absolutely crazy, hitting for hundreds and sometimes even thousands of trillions of damage. And there's been quite a few nerfs to those classes, and also with the season 10 theme being gone, again, the power level goes quite a bit down, but I think also to a more balanced state, while obviously not everybody likes when their character become weaker. Not everybody likes to hit for 2,000 trillion damage per hit as well. So I think we're going to have to see and see how this is going to shake out. But I think overall it's a good thing to shake up the meta. Like, I think Druid and Spiritborn, like, they were both like a little bit too crazy right now compared to the other classes. And I think it's completely reasonable and fair to see them go like a bit weaker in general. And then also like this temper affixes can turn into a greater affix. I think this has tremendous potential with like perfecting your gear in the end and getting some juicy temper affix and hit the GA on the temper affix. I was missing this before, and I think it's really cool to to see this coming. And in general, guys, there is just so much content to test. This seems like a season 4 type of season where you have so much content, and we just have to wait and see how it all gonna work together. Like, if you're looking at the changes individually, I think it's not fair. You have to look at the big picture and see all the changes combined. It's gonna be a different game, basically. And I really like it overall. So let me know what you think, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Maybe you share some of these concerns that the players have. Maybe you share some of these concerns that I have. But there's also so much positive. There's so much content. And I also think some of the concerns are not necessarily gonna turn out to be true, because I remember beginning of season 10 PTR, people were also concerned about so many things, and I think season 10 turned out to be pretty awesome for the game. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below, guys. Take care, my friends. I'll link the patch notes down below, and I'll see you soon with more updates. We're gonna start cooking some amazing builds, specifically for the Barb Nation, man. I think Barb actually looks to be a real class again come the PTR on Tuesday, guys. So in just 4 days. Take care, my friends. I'll see you there. GG. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe, leave a like or a comment. I'm also live on Twitch almost every day, so come and say hi.